We're live from 304 Studios. Look at this. Actually, in the studio. That's right. 304 Studios in Jonesboro, Arkansas. This is an stspod.club production.
Sponsored by Duke.
Sponsored by Duke. We have a special guest. Now, this is in the studio. It's something I've been wanting to do for forever. We're finally being able to put some microphones. Not exactly what I wanted, but it's going to eventually we're going to have it exactly the way I want.
So I get to be the guy who popped your cherry for this thing.
You are one of the first guests. We have someone booked Saturday who I promised to be first, so we have to pretend you're second.
I got it. I'll work with that. That's a good angle. Who's going over, me or that guy?
He is. I'm sorry.
Right. That's fine. I'll do the job. I don't mind.
All right. My first guest is my buddy Robb. We met through. We'll talk about that, but I want to start just from the beginning, Robb. How'd you become a wrestling fan?
I grew up, the first part of my life until I was about 9 years old, I guess, was in Bentonville, Arkansas. My dad was with Walmart. So this is like,
that's what I just fixed to say, the home of Walmart.
This is like 1980, right? And I was out playing one day. I remember it was a Saturday. It was cloudy outside, and my mom.
Hold on. It's fucking. All right, let's start all over. Not all over, but here we go with the first question. All right, I'm in the studio with Robb. This is only our seventh take. This is brand new, man. It's brand new for me. So
this had nothing to do with the setup, BT. This had to do with just your computer going.
I was dinging. So here we go. So I want to start from the beginning. How'd you become a wrestling fan? I always like to hear that from somebody when we're sitting down to talk.
So when I was 6 years old, I was living in Bentonville, Arkansas with my parents, and I was outside playing on a Saturday. I remember that. And my mom poked her head out the door and said, "Hey, wrestling's on TV if you want to come watch." Well, I didn't know what that was. So I went in the very first match that was on TV. It was on WTBS, and it was Ken Timms versus Tommy Rich.
Was your mom a fan?
No,
was she
not at all.
Wasn't a fan at all?
She was telling my dad. She wasn't telling me. My dad's name was Bobby, and my name was Robbie. So I thought she was saying, "Robbie, wrestling's on if you want to come watch." She was saying Bobby wrestling. So she was trying to tell my dad.
And your dad was a fan? Big fan?
Yeah. And so I started watching it right then, and then one thing led to another, and went to my first live event probably 3 weeks later, and scared the shit out of me being watching it live. I thought people were beating each other up and all kinds of stuff, but that's how I got into it, and I've loved it ever since. And then I haven't watched anything since probably 2011 that's actually been out on the market. I haven't watched one single episode of Raw, anything, because I don't like any new wrestling at all.
Oh wow.
So I grew up on Tri-State, which became Mid-South, Leroy McGurk's territory. And then Central
Now, who
States,
was you a big fan of when you first started?
Chief Frank Hill, which would be Jules Strongbow.
Oh, okay. All right.
Chief Frank Hill, Pretty Boy Doug Summers. I was a fan of Don Fargo because he was in the territory at the time. I liked Ron McFarlane, and then I liked Eddie Gilbert and Ricky Morton.
Oh, wow. Don Fargo one time flirted with my mom so bad.
Don Fargo flirted with
hundreds
of thousands of people.
He wanted her phone number. I almost become Fargo. Didn't know that, but I did. It could have been my step.
Yeah.
So did you all of a sudden here you discovered something, the same thing I did. I went, my dad was a weekend alcoholic. So on the weekends, he would give us money to do stuff.
Right.
So me and mom, I was the only child. So me and mom would go to, we hadn't been to wrestling, but we'd go to the movies. We'd go out to eat. That's when we got to do stuff. And the kids across the street's mother was taking them to wrestling. So right down to Blythe, Arkansas, I started first time I ever went. And from that point on, I've been a fan. But we went, the first match I ever saw was The Kisser. And it was Wayne Ferris, and Lawler did his makeup in all four things of Kiss. All four guys were huge Kiss fan at the time. I was huge Kiss fan. Here I am front row with The Kisser. And so I was hooked. But, and this is a question I always ask, but question I always ask, and me when I was front row, so I think I knew it was a work from the day one. I didn't care, but I think in my mind I knew something wasn't right. These guys can't be hitting each other and everything. Because I've had people ask me, when did you know it was a work? I was like, I kind of thought it anyway. I didn't know how it was work, but I kind of thought. So how long from day one till whenever was you smartened up, per se?
I was 24 years old before I was smartened up.
Oh, my God. Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I first of all, I couldn't afford to sit ringside. So, when we were doing all the stuff at the Nashville Fairgrounds, at the sports arena, and we were going to all the shows at the Sportatorium, those were all cheap seats. At the Nashville Fairgrounds, I remember, it had that little loft area up there, that crow's nest. We would always sit up there because those tickets were only like $3.
Yep.
And back then, $3. My parents didn't make a lot of money, and so
I believe it was $5 for our front row seats. It might have been cheaper than that.
Yeah, I didn't get smartened up though till I was 24.
And you didn't look for it or anything because me and you was about the same age, right? I mean,
I'm 52.
Yeah, and then you got the internet and all that. Did you not want to find out what was going on?
I didn't have the internet when I was smartened up.
Okay.
I was smartened up in 1997. So the internet was going. There was, CompuServe, and you had some BBS bulletin boards. But,
right.
And I was a computer programmer straight out of college at that point. And it was only because I only found out it was a work because of an interview that I did with Dave Sullivan, who was EVAD. I did an interview with him on a radio show because right out of college, I'm broke. I don't have any money. And, I hadn't taken the LSAT yet to go to law school. And so I didn't have any money, and so I was working doing some sports stuff, and somebody said there was this fitness guy that came in and was working at the Walmart Fitness Center. He was kind of the head of the fitness center, and he used to be a pro wrestler named the Equalizer. And I was like, man, I've heard that. Who is that? And then I realized, that's Dave Sullivan. So I went down to interview him, and when we got off the interview, he worked me the whole time. It was a completely kayfabe interview.
Oh, wow.
And when we got done, I looked at him and I was like, man, why are you not up in WWF? Because at the time I'm watching Raw and Nitro are dead in their big battle at that point.
Oh, yeah.
I said, why aren't you up in WWF? He's like, man, brother, it's hard to get anybody to talk to me, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, listen, man. I said, I know a lot of sports agents. And I said, hell, I can do agent work myself. I said, what if I get you booked up there? He's like, hey, brother, anything you can get, be fine. He was nursing an injury at that point, so he was about ready to come back. And so I started calling Jim Ross. And he called me back and he said, send me some tape. So I went over to Bill Dandauer's house and I said, I need some tape. And he gave me about 25 VHS tapes. And those tapes were actually studio tapes that had where they were outside doing an interview and then they would yell cut and they would start over. And then you saw, Kevin Sullivan come in and tell Dave at the time.
Right.
They're in the middle of a feud.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I saw Kevin and it's like, wait a minute. So Kevin's up there telling him, when you do the interview, do it like this. And then when I come back with my interview, I'll go here. And I'm like, wait a minute. What the fuck? So
you got heels and babies in the same room, and you're thinking to yourself, what the hell is going on here?
So I decided that I was going to call down I found a wrestling federation in Oklahoma called Oklahoma Pro Wrestling. And I called the promoter named Pete McGuire. And I called him down there, and they're running a weekly show. They're drawing 300 a night on their weekly show at a bowling alley. And I said, hey, I got Dave Sullivan from WCW. He's like, bullshit. I said, no, I do. He said, well, I mean, can you bring him down? Let us meet him. I said, sure. I'll tell you what, we'll come to show this Saturday night. I'll bring him down. Blah, blah. So we drove in to Tulsa and went in the locker room, met everybody.
So you were working the workers.
It's not my proudest moment, but yeah, because it caused a lot of problems later for me. And so, yeah. And I went in.
That's one of my sayings, right?
Well, I said when I went in, I was his agent and I'm the one that got him in WCW. There's the lie. There's the work.
I say that to my wife all the time. We'll go somewhere and there's a bullshitter talking about something, and I always look at her after we get
You
in
can't
the car.
work a worker.
I said, "Don't work a worker."
Well,
she said, "What's going on?" I go, you don't want to talk to him. He's not,
So what I did was I turned around and I went in there, and by the time we got to Tulsa, coming from Arkansas, by the time we got to Tulsa, Oklahoma, I had already discussed with him what the plan was. He knew I was a mark. So he started giving me terms. And he said, when you hear the boys say kayfabe, it's going to mean this. When you hear, and he gave me very few terms, but just enough to understand a little bit. Well, when we got there and we went in the dressing room, was the first place we went, and I saw that everybody's in here together. I'm like, motherfucker, okay. So there's nobody there. Few of the boys. So I decided to go out to the ring. I've never been in a ring in my life.
Right.
I climb up on the second rope, and I decided to do a Randy Savage elbow to the middle of the fucking ring because I thought that thing was soft, and I thought it was bouncy. And when I hit that mat, buddy, every bit of breath left my body, and I couldn't speak for the next minute. And the owner of the company, Pete McGuire, looked at me and said, "Ring's pretty stiff, isn't it?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, you don't know what he's saying, yeah.
So we worked the workers, and they let Dave Sullivan come on the show that night, and they let me walk out with him as his agent. So that was cool as shit.
I bet.
And the boys are really, Brent Albright is there at that time. He's a young Vinny Valentino. He's still in wrestling
right.
school.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And he was NWA champion at one time. And he's a brand new student at that time. And I'm still not sure this is all a work because they're beating the shit out of each other, man. And they're making this look so real and snug that I'm like, man, that match may have been a work. Yeah, that one was kind of hokey. But that match right there, beating the shit out of each other. Do they really? It took me a long time to wrap my mind around that. Okay.
When we were kids and we go to the live matches, when they were stiff like that, or they hit each other with a chair real hard, me and the neighborhood boys that went with our moms would say, they got mad for real.
Yeah.
They got mad. They really.
Maybe those two matches didn't, but that one.
But those were for real.
I mean,
it was so funny.
I heard Jamie just say on a shoot, I heard Jamie Dundee say one of the things about watching his father and Lawler was he couldn't tell if it was work or shoot half the time. He just couldn't tell. They were that good that you really didn't know.
Right.
But to what I was saying, so we don't lose that point, everybody by the end of the night wanted me as their agent. And
well, sure. Hell, you got a WCW guy.
That's right. So, and he's selling his WCW pictures there, him with the bunny and blah, blah, blah. So I get him booked on a few shows with OPW. Well, some of the boys, there was a group called Generation X, and there was Dexter Hardtime Hardaway, and there were all these guys, and I called Ken Taylor at NWA Southwest in Dallas, and I got him booked in Dallas with NWA.
Oh, wow.
And so the OPW organization in Tulsa, this is months later, and I've now learned the business because they've invited me to come to their wrestling school, sit in and watch the boys work because I'm a scout, you know. Watch. So I'm learning the business from the outside of the ring. Are you with me?
Because you're bullshitting them.
So May. So this is in February. May comes up. We're now in 1998. Okay. May happens. And I take those guys to NWA Dallas. Well, when they went to NWA Dallas, they were missing the show at OPW. And the OPW powers that be were not very happy with that. And so one of them called Bill Dannenauer, Dave Sullivan, to say, hey, man, what's really up with this guy? Like, who is he? Like, what is this?
Right.
Because this guy like just finished college and he's only X amount of years old. And that's when Bill Dannenauer goes ahead and tells the other worker, well, shit, I'll tell you what happened. This dude come interview me. He's a fucking mark, blah, blah, blah. And Dannenauer tells this guy, well, hell, I'm working him too. Well, they're working me because they think, well, he knows some people. Once they realize I don't fucking know anybody.
Or you might have some money. You might be a money mark.
But then they realize I'm not a money mark. So then they realize he was never Sullivan's agent. He was never a fucking agent. He was a mark when he met. So the boys wanted to whip my ass. They were pretty pissed.
I bet.
They were hot. But, well, fuck, I just did to you what you do to people all the time.
Right. Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
So I just, and at that point, the business was not something I wanted to do ever. I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun. I thought I could definitely play a heel manager because I can get smoked with anybody at any point in time. So I just have to get cocky because I'm naturally like Buddy Landell. I have his personality just naturally as a person.
Yeah, yeah.
At 52 years old, I don't have that anymore. But that's how I got it. And then I was just a fan, bro. I've been a fan all my life. I'm still to this day, there's stuff that I watch that I don't know if that's a work or a shoot. Like, I don't know, like you guys know.
Yeah.
And that's how I got
it is. I told the wife today, when I had talked to you online, or I texted you about a mutual friend of ours that you were going to contact today. I sent you his phone number.
Yeah.
And I said, people in the business look at stuff differently. She said, what do you mean? I said, Robb's a fantastic guy, but him contacting this guy in advance is not something people in the wrestling business do. And she said, what do you mean? I said, we're not cordial.
Right.
We just do shit because we said we can do it.
Yeah.
And we've always been that way.
I think
the business is like that.
I think being in the legal field for 30 years.
I know
you learn. And look, I don't mind if it ever gets said what happened and who it was. If
we can talk about it and I can put it on Patreon.
But it's, there's a new podcast that's going to be starting up soon. And we just wanted to cover all the bases and get everybody on the same page. And we wanted to give this person the opportunity every week that they could come on the show a week after we record and it's been released. The next show, they could come on and correct anything they felt that was incorrect from the previous week because they were there. They could they could say, hey, you guys are on the wrong track. That's not what we were thinking. What we were thinking was this, and he would know.
Sure.
And apparently that's probably not going to happen. And he didn't want to talk about using footage and things like that any further. So I just said, okay, thanks. Have a great day.
Hey, y'all, if you're not a Patreon member, you need to be one today because we're going to very interesting conversation Robb had today. And we're going to tell you who the hell he's talking about, what our plans are. Let's go back. Before you got in the business per se, you were a fan and you have such an interest because
I'm moving around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my dad was with Walmart, right? And so July.
Now, when you say y'all was moving around, your dad was at Walmart. Was this that kind of thing where
he was an assistant manager,
kind of like the military, where you got to be getting a different school, you got to get different friends?
I went to 11 different schools between 6th and 9th grade.
Shit.
So here's what happened, and it was great for me. I had a wonderful childhood. I don't have brothers or sisters, so my dad was an assistant manager with Walmart, and you've got to go through that traveling store to store to store to become a GM, and this was back in the day. So it's early 85. We moved to Charleston, South Carolina. We lived in Somerville, and I was able for the first time to pick up Worldwide. So I always had my 505 TBS. Right. I always had my Mid-South and my Central States. Now I'm in a whole new area. So now what I'm getting is Worldwide, and that's it. I'm not getting anything but Crockett right now. We're there for 3 months. And in June of 85, my dad's getting transferred to Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
So we moved to little town of Madison, and we moved into some apartments off of Neely's Bend Road called River Retreat. And the day we moved in, the lady that was the manager behind her, she had autographed pictures of Dundee, Lawler, Austin Idol, because obviously she's a fan. And I saw that. Here I am. I'm 11 years old. I saw that, and I'm like, oh, you like wrestling? She's like, yeah. It's like, I don't know either one of those guys, but I know Dundee, but I don't know Lawler or Idol. I've seen Idol maybe a couple times. And she says, yeah, and we have 2 wrestlers who live here. And I was like, oh, and she said, Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton, the Fantastics. And I'm like, I have no idea who that is.
Right.
She's like, what comes on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Now, remember, we only got the hour show in Nashville. So it comes on Saturdays, 11 a.m. on WSM TV, NBC. And so I turned the TV on Saturday, 11 a.m. First match I ever saw was Boda the Witch Doctor
I'm sorry.
against like Jim Jameson or some bullshit. And I turned the TV off. This is shit, dude. This is shit.
Oh, just the thought that's
the first match I saw in Memphis.
The idea that the way WCW was and all the other promotions, although they had the same formula, Memphis had a reputation of being shit. There's, it's Memphis, it's hokey. They're working a different style, blah, 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 the big time.
So then I rocked on a little bit, and I thought, man, this is the only wrestling I've got. I've still got my Saturday NWA and my Sunday NWA.
Right.
And then it started kind of getting interesting for a little bit, and then it was September of '85 that the whole Lawler Dundee thing started, and I remember turning it on, and Dan Lane was giving the interview where Dundee comes out and says, hey, y'all are out here saying you beat everybody. You haven't beat Lawler and Dundee.
Right.
And that's when Jerry came out, said, calm down, Bill. Bill said, I don't want to be partners with you. Fuck you. Bam. They do the schmoz, and then now they're on the loser leave town run. Holy shit, I was mesmerized because it all happened on TV. And then it was going to Mid-South Coliseum. Well, shit, this is going to be at the fairgrounds. They're going to do it at fairgrounds too, because I can't see the Mid-South Coliseum stuff.
Right. Well, you don't even know it's even going on, right? Because you're on the loop. You're a week behind.
I'm a week behind.
Yeah.
But now I know it's coming to me now.
Right.
So I got to go with a friend that lived in the apartments. This old lady took me to wrestling at the fairgrounds. And I did not miss a Saturday night until we moved away from there at the end of May. But we moved from Nashville to Oklahoma City. So Oklahoma City, now I've got Watch UWF. I've got World Class that's coming to Oklahoma City for shows.
Right.
3 months later, we moved to Lawton, Oklahoma. That's a regular stop for World Class at the Great Plains Coliseum. So I'm at the show one night. My dad's with me. And Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton were working with the Midnights at that point.
Oh, fantastic matches.
And
fantastic.
Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton walk in the building, and I'm 13 at this point, almost 14, and I went, Tommy Rogers, Bobby Fulton, the Fantastics, like Dave Brown would say it.
Yeah.
Tommy turned around, saw me. Oh, my God, Rob, what are you doing here? Blah, blah, blah. Came up, talked. They took me into the dressing room, let me meet some of the boys, because there they had separate dressing rooms. So they took me into the babyface dressing room, let me meet some of the boys. My cousin was a deputy sheriff there in Lawton, so he was working security at the show. And that's where I got to meet Gary Hart.
Oh, wow.
And
I never met Gary.
He told us, we were outside trying to smoke cigarettes, and he busted us and took our cigarettes from us because it was Gary Hart, and we shouldn't be smoking and blah, blah, blah. Moved from Lawton to Dallas, and now I'm living in Dallas, and the Sportatorium is
what year is
we're at 88. We're at 88 right now.
Or is Dallas having that big?
Dallas is hot as shit.
Oh, 88. That 88. I'm not talking about wrestling. I'm talking about Dallas, the city. Is this when all the stuff is it's like it's the place to be? Everybody's. I mean, you don't know but there is a section of time.
When Dallas exploded.
Oh, it did. Everybody wanted to be in Dallas. All the businesses want to be in Dallas. It's kind of like Austin right now.
Austin's just, I was just there last weekend. It's massive. But I went to Sportatorium and started going to Sportatorium every Friday night.
And you told me about a seat that all you and your friends.
Yeah, we were always in that Section D area, which is the same place that Austin would sit when he would watch. I didn't know him. I saw Brandon Baxter a lot. He was always at the shows because we were all the same age, and he had that long blonde hair.
Yeah.
He looks, because at that boys having long hair, you're calling them girls, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think Brandon was just a born worker. And then from there, we moved to Midland, Texas, and that's where I graduated high school and got out of even caring really about wrestling. But yeah, so I got to go through some territory systems. And
I say this on the podcast.
My dad tried to smarten me up though when I was 11.
He tried to tell you it's all bullshit?
In Memphis. Yeah, because he had to go to a store in Memphis and do some work. So he said, hey, do you want to go with me this weekend? And he said, I've got a buddy that works there that is able to get us tickets to go to the TV studio on Saturday morning and watch the show. I'm like, hell yeah. So we go. We stay Friday night at the days in, and Saturday morning we get to studio. This is the coolest shit I've ever seen. That studio is a lot smaller than I thought it was,
Yeah, it's
man. That
tiny.
thing is tight.
It's tiny.
So if you'll remember, baby faces come out, you've got a line of people, then it makes an L curve and goes toward the desk. I'm sitting at the corner of the L curve in the back with my dad.
Have you ever looked for that video to see if you're there?
I'm dark. I'm dark
okay.
because it's dark back there. And I mean, I know I'm there. You can see it. But
yeah.
And so anyway, it is the day that we are there for the show that Dutch Mantell is late and Buddy Landell is telling Bill Dundee, why do we even hang out with this tobacco spitting redneck? You know, he's cramping our style, Bill. You know, the guy's cramping our style. Okay.
Right.
That's when Dutch shows up and the whole shamaz takes place, right? Holy shit, man. I'm into this. Okay. This is fucking great. So we leave after the show. 12, I think we left there about 12:15 by the time we left. And we go back to Nashville. Well, where am I going tonight?
Oh, shit.
When I get to the
you're a week behind.
My dad knows at this point how this bicycle shit works. And so because at that time, my dad's no longer with Walmart. I said Walmart. He's opening the new Sam's Clubs.
Right. That's when all that started. Yeah.
Jerry Jarrett had come in to get his Sam's membership, and my dad was the one that gave it to him. My dad knew who Jerry Jarrett was. Boom, boom, boom. My dad takes me to the fairgrounds that night. Bill Dundee and Dutch Mantell are tagging. I just saw them 8 hours ago beat shit out of each other. And my dad said, what'd I tell you? And I said, no, I know what happened. You know, they go from Memphis in the morning and they have to drive here to Nashville.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, they got out there and they patched up their differences. And by the time they got up here, and then I went the next week and I saw the show, wait a minute.
That's the same
They're
show.
replaying the same show.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned that we're behind. And then an 11-year-old with his mother helping him out to understand what's happening. And that's how I realized bicycle. But I still was not believing that there was something hokey.
You just brought a memory for me, because I remember how I was turned on to the bicycle and stuff. Was that there was a magazine that was on the gimmicks table. It was called Wrestling Review or something. Yeah. And it was big section of results, huge section of results. So I'm reading through the results and then I'm putting the dates. You know, I'm a big nerd. So what the hell? I'm putting the dates and I'm like, that's the same show that, and I kind of start putting, two and two together kind of thing.
It got me one time in Dallas too, because they had done a burn.
Just like, come on. Look,
I'm fine with Duke right there. He doesn't bother me.
Rob can we can put you over here.
Yeah.
So we can look at
Come on, Duke. Come on over here, buddy.
Come on.
He ain't bothering me
Get on
at
your
all.
bed. I don't want to click.
Oh, I got you.
There we go. There we go. All right, let me get in here. I can cut that.
All right, good. All right, so we're back.
So I kind of, by reading those magazines, and it also smarted me up to the fact that there was so many. Dale Mann had a promotion. I don't know if that name means anything to you. And it showed me all these outlaw promotions. I thought there was only Memphis Wrestling.
I thought if you were in wrestling and you were on TV, you were rich.
Oh, wow.
I assumed the gimmick was real, whatever the gimmick was. Ric Flair was a millionaire. Dusty Rhodes was a common man, whatever. And I was never a WWF guy. I always thought that shit was hokey. Like, I was never a WWF guy. I know that the day that they flipped Georgia on Black Saturday, that was the worst day ever, and it was just shit.
I remember Bruno Sammartino, that's all the aftermags would do.
And that's all I could get my information from at the time, too. I remember going to the store and reading at the grocery store. I was so
disappointed the first time I saw him.
Right.
Because I thought, he's not he was a draw, but he wasn't a big deal to me. I mean, he wasn't Jerry Lawler.
I loved Austin Idol. I learned a lot about Austin Idol when I was living in Nashville, and then, just learning to review stuff once we had an online database of places you could get information. You had Wrestling Riot Online. You had all these kind of different things. And then I met Austin Idol, and he's a fucking asshole, and you know, he's a constant work. Like, he just can't. I think that's who he is.
Oh yeah,
and I was always turned off to that part of the business. That's why. So, for instance, when I lived here in Jonesboro, you know, I was at McDaniel Law Firm. I was new in my career. This is 03, maybe 02. I'm brand new in my career, and I met Bobby Horn, and he was being sued here in Jonesboro for something. And he came to our firm, and Bobby paged up to my office, and he said, "Don't you like that damn professional wrestling shit?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I got a professional wrestler down here." I said, "Who?" He said, "Robert Horn." I said, "I had never fucking heard of him. He's probably a jobber." He said, "Hang on." He said, "To tell you, Sir Mo." I said, "Fucking men on a mission."
Right, there you go. Yeah.
Dude, are you kidding me? So I'll be right down. I came down, met Bobby.
What'd you think about Bobby?
I liked him. He was.
You know, he was a worker, right?
So
he was carny as fuck. I love Bobby, but he was carny.
So we started. We were working on his lawsuit, and he invited me to come to a MAC to MC, I don't know, whatever it's called, at that place that looked like a Quonset hut. This old building in Dyersburg.
Oh, and, I worked there. I worked some shows there.
He invited me to come in, and the very first person I met was Golden Boy Greg Anthony, and he gave me a shirt that said the Golden Guillotine. And I met Alan Steele and his dad, who his dad was so incredibly nice to me.
He was so, I want to tell you, a father figure for somebody that wants to be a professional wrestler. He supported Alan.
Oh, my God. The guy was amazing.
Wonderful.
I was already in my professional career at that point, so I'm a complete mark over here. And of course, Bobby saw me as a money mark because he thought, you know. So I went over, and they had that little camera area where they were recording in there, and he had everything.
I worked many of shows in that place,
and I got to meet Moondog Spot. He was there that night. Matter of fact, he hit Greg Anthony with the damn Eureka vacuum cleaner that night, and it was so stiffest thing I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
And I met all the boys. I went over there probably a couple, 3 shows. And it wasn't something that I wanted to be involved in, but I liked watching it from the periphery, and I enjoyed meeting those guys. And as a matter of fact, that was the last time I went to a live show.
Get ready, wrestling fans. MCW is bringing you the action like never before. Experience the high-flying moves, the bone-crushing slams, and the rivals that can only be settled inside the square ring. This is family-friendly live professional wrestling at its very best. Don't just hear about it. Be there when the superstars of MCW collide in unforgettable matches you'll talk about for weeks. Tickets are affordable. The action's nonstop, and the excitement is guaranteed. MCW Wrestling, where the future of wrestling happens now. Be there.
Don't miss Memphis Wrestling Live, Friday, March 20th. Don't miss Wrestling Night with the Memphis Grizzlies at FedEx Forum. Saturday, March 21st, join us at the Memphis Hustle Game at Landers Center, featuring live Memphis wrestling. Sunday, March 29th, Vince Russo is coming to Memphis Wrestling. Saturday, April 11th, Memphis Wrestling is headed to Little Rock for Arkansas Travelers Wrestling Night at Dickey Stevens Park. All tickets are on sale now. Get yours right now at memphiswrestling.tv.
Arkansas, lock in. Natural State Wrestling is on tour. March the 21st, we roll into North Little Rock at the William F. Lehman Public Library. And it ain't going to be quiet, folks. This is full-blown building, shaking, wrestling. Every donation goes right back into the community, and every match leaves a mark. This isn't just wrestling. This is Natural State Wrestling. Loud, unpredictable, and built for Arkansas. NSR on tour. March matches kick off now. Be there. Contact Elijah Dobbs at 501-380-5734. pictures of tears or email them at naturalstatewrestling@gmail.com. That's RASSLIN. Oh, wow, Dyersburg, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Last time.
Yeah.
Worked many shows. There was, at the time that show was going on, there was another
That
show.
was Motley Crue's show, right?
Yeah, Peppermint Pond was
Right.
Motley Crue's show.
Right.
And we would, if you got tired of working, Spot Moondog, I've told the story a million times, but he wanted me to pull his youngest son out of the crowd.
Okay.
He's like, come here, BT. I want to talk to you about what we want to do. And I sat down. He said, I want you to pull him out of the crowd. He said, and I want you to take your belt off. He said, and I want you just to beat the hell out of him. And I'm looking at him. And I said, in my mind, it's going crazy.
Right.
It's going crazy. I said, so you want me to beat your son? He goes, yeah, we're leading up to something. He said, this will give you all kinds of heat. I get up from talking to Larry and I walk over to my friends or my two guys that were the tag team I had. And I said, well, we just got something proposed to us. And my boys said, what? I said, well, a lumberjack street fight in about 2 weeks. I already knew what this was leading to. I already knew what Larry was going to do. And they said, what? I go, yeah. And this was Spot Moondog. And I don't know who he was tagging with at the time. And they said, no. And they were, they were part-timers. They had shoot jobs. So I go, and we were the tag team champs at the time. I go over, and instead of calling him Spot, I just called him Larry. I looked him right now, and I said, Larry, my boys got shoot jobs. They don't want a belt across their face. I know what this is leading to. I'll take care of you, BT. I'll take care of you. And I'm, my mind.
Last word.
Sure. Yeah. I've been here with you. I know what the hell you do. So I said, Larry, we're going to have to decline. I appreciate you thinking about me, blah, blah, blah. And the next week they called us up and they said, we need you to come in and drop the belts in a loser league town match. And I'm like, what? Yeah. So we went from there to the Peppermint Pond and worked. Bobby was there at the time at the Peppermint Pond, and he was doing, like, there was a wrestler named Flex Bagwell. There was
fucking original.
Yeah, Steve Austin, not Steve Austin. It was Scott Austin. Had the whole gimmick. He was doing but yeah, I almost had some business dealings with Bobby. But my spidey sense was going off.
I've heard that, he's the consummate worker and he's a carny and I've heard all that. But look, from Robb Helt, that's the other weird thing is people are like, dude, you just use your shoot name out here. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I don't care. I don't have anybody to hide from, right? So
I have to use my shoot name too because
basically for me, Robb Helt, he was kind to me. He was courteous to me. He never tried to work me. I think there might have been a hint of what can we get, but he didn't really try to work me.
I think you're describing my relationship with him.
He was always very nice to me. And so I've heard people say a lot of things about Bobby. He was never like that to me. So I can only judge on what he was like to me.
He was like that with me. And I think there was, and I'm not just saying this to blow, toot my own horn kind of thing, but the 4 guys that I had, they were workers. They were really good workers, and they understood. They didn't understand the psychology, but he knew I did.
Right.
So when we talk about psychology, I was outside the ring telling them what to do, when to come in and out of heat. When they were beating down the baby faces, I would say, tell them it's time for the hot tag.
And see, that's something that's what I love about being able to do these podcasts from the inside now. Luckily, I was able to get on the inside with you guys, and you guys will say stuff that I learn from what you're telling me because I don't understand or know the psychology. And look, the people that were training people at the school that I went in, sat in on for 3 months watching, I never once took a bump in the ring. But the people that were sitting in there and going through that, they weren't being trained by They were being trained by, Joe from out back. He didn't know anything but what he saw on TV. And so it's not like I understood psychology. So when you say stuff like that, it's like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know if you heard Rip Rogers' interview.
I did. I listened to that.
It's
That's
one of the
really
best
good.
interviews
Yeah.
I've ever heard. One of the things that Rip said in there was, you're going over, and when you get the pencil, go home. I'd never heard that in my life. And so I had to ask Gene. I'm like, Gene, I know he meant you're going over, so you're going to win. When you get the pencil, go home. And it was that old tap of the pencil from Guy Coffey. You get the pencil to go home. I was like, no shit. So I am what's called a smart Mark, and I lean more toward Mark than smart.
That's okay though.
But
it's all right.
but I also understand the illusion. But I'm kind of a David Copperfield fan. I don't want to know how the Statue of Liberty disappeared. I just want to be entertained and let it disappear.
See, and I turned into the opposite.
Because you're a worker.
Well, I wasn't a worker at first, and as soon as I got my first kayfabe sheet, it was during the. See, they had just turned against Dusty Olean. They had beat him up in a cage.
I didn't know what the Observer was until 2012.
Wow. And I was getting it in
You were getting it when you were a kid.
87. I started getting 86, 87.
Well, you would have been, what, 40 then? 42 and 87? Is
no,
that right?
I just graduated from high school.
You aged a lot. You're fucking old. I thought you were like 80, dude.
Oh, boy. Asshole.
I'm working you.
But
kayfabe, brother.
it was one of those things where I've discussed this a lot. I think the kayfabe sheets, I kind of wish I wouldn't have got them in the sense that they molded who I like, and I just subscribed to Dave Meltzer. He was the only guy that anybody knew at the time.
That's like learning Santa Claus isn't real, dude. Why? That's like learning there is no fucking Easter Bunny. Why would I never wanted to be smartened up because I didn't know there was such a thing as smartened up.
Right.
And I don't want to know how it works. And then you learn, and now it becomes a thirst for knowledge or a craving to learn from history and learn what happened. And that's why, when I got turned on to you guys, the USWA podcast, which is how I met you guys.
Now, you was listening to P3 Radio before you weren't? Okay,
no.
All right.
No, I was in I don't remember where I was, but I was listening to a show and I heard it and I thought, this is really good. Holy shit, this is great. Right? And a friend of mine said, hey, they're talking about a time frame with Dallas and all that. He's a friend of mine, and he said, remember when we were going to Sportatorium all those nights, blah, blah, blah. Remember that shit happened? I was like, yeah. He said, dude, you ought to reach out to him and tell him, hey, you got a story. You were up here in the parking lot that night. So I reached out to you guys. You guys graciously brought me on the show, and I became a huge fan over time of Josh Briley. And so that turned me on to P3 Radio. So then I joined Patreon. Because of all the content that was there. And so I joined Patreon, and then Gene and I got to talking, and you guys are working so hard on these shows. And I'm like, dude, I got a shoot thing I do over here and da-da-da. And Gene's like, well, hey, I kind of want to do this Continental thing. And I'd never watched Continental 85.
Oh, wow.
And so it parallels so much with Memphis that it's like, you're going to enjoy it. And he said, hey, do you want to do this show? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, is this a work? Like, dude, hell yeah, I want to do this. Luckily my income does not come from anything wrestling related. And I have the time to be able to do that. And so we started the Retro Wrestling Review podcast for Continental. You can see there. We have our shirts out. And we're going, we just finished, I think, week 4. I think weeks 1 and 2 are out. What do you think about the show?
I told you sent me a preview. I liked it. I liked finding out something different than I would know kind of thing. And you had thrown in some facts about some of the jobbers. I love shit like
well,
that.
I just did some research, but I knew that, I knew Gene could carry me through because this is his wheelhouse like Memphis is yours. Continental's his wheelhouse. He knows Continental.
Right. He's good at Memphis too, though.
He's very good at Memphis, but he was lucky in the fact that, he grew up on that borderline where he had TV out of Columbus and he had TV out of Memphis at the same time. So he's getting to watch both shows.
Yeah.
And that's why I was wondering about the Fire and Flame crossover, right? Because J.D. Costello brought Fire and Flame into Memphis in 86. We're looking at Flame, which is Jody Hamilton, down in Continental. And I'm going, well, hey, was there ever a time that maybe they had Fire and Flame running in Memphis and Fire running down here? And obviously Jody Hamilton is not Don Bass. They don't even look the same. Would there be? And I talked with a guy on our, there's a great Facebook group called Alabama Wrestling History. And this Facebook group has a lot of historians from Alabama. And I believe I was talking to Richard Sartain on there, and Sartain said, no, when Jody left to go to Atlanta, that's when it opened Memphis up to use the gimmick, and J.D. Costello coming in and bringing in Fire and Flame. Brought in the Mod Squad first, and then he brought in Fire and Flame. But yeah.
I always was a mark for all the mass wrestlers, no matter what combination it was. It was the interns, the assassins, you name it, almost everyone.
I'm a huge mark for Memphis Monroe. I've liked Memphis Monroe. I got to catch a main event of $5 wrestling, and I got to watch Freight Train and Memphis Monroe go at it.
Was I able to listen to the interview that I did with him?
No. Hey, I do have a question for you. I got to ask you.
Oh, okay.
I'll lose it if I don't remember it right now. I smoke a lot of pot. So, and don't edit that out. Listen, folks, if you're not on, my blood type is THC. If I start to sweat, it's going to smell like weed in here. I got a question for you. So you've been running around as the BT Express for a long time, and I was watching let me tell you how much of a mark I am before I ask this question.
All right.
I thought there was a fucking producer Smokey.
Gene told me that because I started talking about Smokey. He said that I brought Smokey into this universe because I was blaming him for we got some complaints that I was spending too much time putting over PC Radio. And so I said, I'm going to give Smokey the heat. And so I started talking about Producer Smokey. And so Gene just kept Producer Smokey again.
I thought Producer Smokey was the dude. I thought, so, there's other podcasts out here that they have the guy, the talent, and then they have a producer that's doing all the
God,
thumbnails.
I wish we did. Hey,
right?
Come on in, buddy. Won't you do this for me?
So I thought there was a dude. He lives in fucking Alabama. Of course, there's a fucking guy named Smokey that lives around, right? So I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, these dudes are big time.
Got Bandit too. Bandit's no.
So I'm doing I'm still not smart to this on the first podcast I do with fucking Gene. I'm on with Gene, and Gene says something, and I'm like, yeah, you could probably have Producer Smokey cut that out. And he goes, it's Sunday, Producer Smokey's at church. And I'm like, well, that makes sense.
I love it.
Bro, I'm not smart to it. You want to hear the next one, which you've not heard yet, and this is going to make you laugh. Let me ask you a question.
All right, I'm going to answer.
Here's the question. When you worked at the TV5 studio, was it cold in there?
I did not work at the TV5 studio.
But you're BT Express.
That was Billy Travis.
Okay. I called Gene Jackson to say, did BT just stop working out? I saw an episode of Memphis Wrestling on Sunday morning, just 4 days ago from when we're recording this, that was the BT Express in a tag team match with a mask on. And I said, damn, BT was pretty jacked. I fucking thought you were the BT Express until Gene smartened me up.
About 15 years ago, I got that jacked. But then I got married and got happy and got fat again. But it was my gimmick. Here, it's horrible. But...
So wait, did Billy Travis steal the gimmick from you?
No, we did it as a tribute to Billy. Billy was in trouble all the time.
Well, yeah.
And we knew that he was in trouble all the time. So when I come up with my name to wrestle, the Express thing came from the Midnight Express. Huge Midnight Express fan, always have been. And my friends was like, Billy Travis did, and that's you, Brian Trammell. They did, and we just love Billy Travis so much. So when people ask me what did the BT stand for, I said Bad Times. So I was the Bad Times Express, BT Express, but it was kind of a little tribute to him. But you talk about being trained.
But I wasn't smart enough. Like 4 days ago, I was not smart to this. Gene had to smarten me up. So you understand where I'm coming from here. There's still, I believe some of this shit still. So somebody could walk into me right now and say, hey, I used to be Dr. X. Well, we all know that was what, Dick Byer, somebody that played Dr. X.
Right, Destroyer, yeah.
Yeah, Destroyer, Dick Byer. But he could tell me he was Dr. X. I don't know, dude. And so that's why I love these podcasts. And I think it's good for Gene because Gene's like, okay, I don't know enough to argue a point. And Gene's like, he's seeing it from fresh eyes. So what may be hokey to Gene is not hokey to me because I'm seeing it for the first time. We're embroiled right now in a big, massive feud with the Tommy Rich and Johnny Rich and Whistle Britches against the Nightmares. And so Danny Davis and Ken Wayne are embroiled in this big feud with Scott Armstrong, Johnny Rich, and Tommy Rich, and we're embroiled. I don't know about all the behind the scenes that was going on, and I'm learning that from the podcast, which is really, really cool to me.
Love that feud. Love the Nightmares.
Dude, there's a match that we just watched where Ken Wayne is singles against Tommy, and Tommy backdrops Ken Wayne.
And he goes a billion miles up in the air.
Dude. Or that bump that he took over the top rope, head to the
first.
apron, flip back. Jesus.
You know, Lawler did that too at one time.
Well, Lawler probably didn't do it intentionally.
Yeah. First time I ever met Lawler.
He doesn't like you.
No, well, he does now. Last time I saw him, he liked me.
He said you were a fat piece of shit.
There you go. Let's the old podcast again.
I'm listening to what you're putting out on your Patreon. You've got the Cassette Wrestling News. Brother, that thing is awesome. That Jeff Osborne, and I just heard last night, I was listening to the latest episode that just released on Patreon last night. I went to sleep listening to it, and you were on there, and you were talking about Lawler and them, and part of me is laying there going, now, is that a shoot or is that a work? And it's like, now I got to ask Gene, was it a shoot or was that a work on this Cassette Wrestling News? Was it a shoot or a work?
It was a shoot. He hated me.
So what you were saying, and he was saying you were a piece of shit, and this Brian Trammell, he didn't know shit about the business, and then you coming back and saying, well, basically, fuck Jerry Lawler and blah, blah. You called him, you said you said something about his girlfriend. You called her a rat. You said his girlfriend was a rat.
Oh, God, there's no telling.
That's what you said on the Cassette Wrestling News last night.
What happened was I thought I knew everything about the business.
Sure.
And I put some stuff in the yearbook. And
you said his girlfriend was a rat.
Yeah, I probably did.
And so and so I'm thinking, is that a shoot or is that a work? I mean, and so I'm one of those people that I'm easy to blur the line with because, yeah, I look at it through, 10-year-old eyes, because that's
where we get Josh. Josh, even though
he does the same thing.
It was his Uncle Danny. He's a lot younger than us, and he saw it.
This Memphis shit is all very romanticized to me.
Oh,
it's my childhood. And, I love it. And that's why I love all of the podcasts. I don't watch anything new, so I'm sorry I don't listen to anything new on yours.
Right.
I loved being when I was on 5-Minute Time Limit with you. I thought that was good. You had some really good people on there. I got to meet Scotty Wentz. I met Stacey Adams. I met, people that you have come through regular. I thought that was great. I've always wondered why you guys don't have a lot more subscribers and a lot more traffic because you're talking about something that is historical and means something to the business, and it's interesting shit,
I think the Cassette Wrestling News is one of those things that if many people got a hold of, they would understand that time period.
There was so much going and kayfabe all at the same time.
It was like I told Gene and them, it reminded me of it was like a National Lampoon or some kind of skit show going on. Plus we had all the news. Plus we were kind of
like an old Monty Python.
Yeah. And then we was kind of smartened up. And I told them I didn't remember being as as much part of it as I am. But me and Jeff, we were friends then. The first time we ever met was Evansville last year or the year before last. We've been friends for X amount of years, never met. And it was awesome to be part of the big Memphis wrestling convention that everybody said still hated me.
Lawyers do that a lot where, you have this lawyer that you're working with and they're in New York and you're in Dallas and you've never met, but you've been working 2 years on this case, just emails back and forth and pleadings and filings. And then all of a sudden you're getting ready to go to trial and you meet. And it's like, oh, hey, how you doing? And so lawyers are the same way. The legal business and being in court is the same as professional wrestling. It's all work. There's nothing real in our business but the money and the miles. It's the same thing.
Right.
It's all a work. You're trying to get 12 people to agree with your show. And so it's the plaintiff versus the defendant. There's got to be a winner, and I need all 12 of you to determine it's a work, dude. It's a work. It's all telling stories. There's psychology to it. And I understand the legal psychology. I don't understand the wrestling. I don't, because they got me.
Well, like I said earlier, when I learned about the business, I thought the neatest thing at first was knowing everybody's real name. I thought I was smart because I knew everybody's real name.
Fucked me up.
Then when I got into the business and I wrestled about 18 times and I was horrible. I really wanted to be part of the business, but knew I couldn't wrestle. Nothing athletic about me.
So you managed?
So I managed, and then I helped 4 young guys get in the business. But as soon as I learned psychology, I couldn't quit. It's like I wanted to watch every tag match I could watch, when they're making a hot tag, when they doing this, when they doing that. And then I had to back off when I got out of the business to enjoy it again, because I was still, and I still do it to the day, but I was still looking for when's a hot tag, and stuff like that. Then when I got started working with Memphis Wrestling, it's a total different animal. This Memphis Wrestling, because they have 7-8 minute matches, and that's a total TV 7-minute match is totally different than
a house show.
The house show where you're studying the heat and you're listening. On a house show, you listen. That's when I told them to go for the hot tag. I'd say when the crowd was up here and we had them, it was time to keep them. Sometimes if you didn't do it at the right time, they would just quit watching the match and get up and go get popcorn. So you had to have that ear to.
Is that why they called, there was always a match? It was a popcorn match. Is that what does that mean?
Is that
where people went to get popcorn?
I asked about that, and that is the match that
is it the comeback after intermission?
Yeah, kind of the match where you don't really have to watch it.
Right, I'm standing in line to get my popcorn. If I miss some of this, it's no big deal.
And you hear you used to hear that all the time off the WWE pay-per-views.
It would basically be the match.
Girls' match.
Okay, or it would be the match BT Express you against anybody. Would be that.
Well, yeah, very much so.
So let me ask you a question. What I go all off the rails. I have to ask you because I'm a fan of the USWA podcast. So, I've been on the show one time, and that was like a huge pleasure to do that. It was so fun. But I'm a fan of the show, a Patreon fan of the show. I've got to ask you, what is the heat between you and Randy Hales? Why do y'all have heat?
Oh, wow. I really don't. Well, let me say, I'm a fan of the show too, and that's how I got involved.
But that's how I have this question for you, because I've heard you guys talk.
Since I got with Gene, actually at the very front said, would you be, I've been putting out 2 episodes for 7-8 years. Would you be interested in doing the USWA podcast? And it came out of my mouth, who the fuck's going to listen to that?
Why?
And I was wrong. Okay, I was wrong about Kurt Angle too. I thought Sean Stasiak was going to be the superstar. But hey, I said, nah, go ahead. Then I started following the show, like I asked you earlier before we got to record. I started watching the TV show every Saturday morning,
right.
Just like you
would before.
And then listening to the podcast when it came out, and then become part of it, asked me to do some guests, and then with the second season asked me to be the third wheel because Richard wasn't there. There was a show in Jonesboro where Randy Hales went against Brandon Baxter.
Sure. Was
And-
that the one at the forest? Out in the
No,
forest?
they did that later on. This
Okay.
was at the Earl Bell.
Okay.
I knew some of the guys. They invited me backstage. Come on back, BT. Hang out with us. In between the matches. I was always the guy that wanted to watch the matches,
Sure.
but I would come in between. So I come in there. After Randy against Brandon, and one of the guys was ribbing me and asked me, with Randy standing behind me, and I didn't know it, what I thought about the Brandon Baxter Randy Hales match. And I said it was the drizzling shits. It was horrible. Why are they out there? And we had all these guys from WWE developmental there, all these athletes.
So what year is this?
I don't know. I'm horrible on years.
Wait.
Rob.
Are we talking 10 plus years ago?
Oh no, it's been longer than that. I
Oh,
was
my God.
in college.
Okay, then if somebody has heat with you, and that heat has been with you for that many years, but he's been on your podcast twice since then, y'all don't have heat.
It doesn't make any sense. See, and we.
Well, you definitely need to come to Patreon, folks, because you need to get on Patreon for whatever we're about to discuss when we go off air, because I'm going to have some interesting information about a conversation today, and we're going to give you information on new podcasts that we're going to be starting pretty soon.
We didn't speak. He was really mad at me. He had told Brandon he wanted to go in the crowd, and they had another match I was present at. He wanted to go into the crowd and punch me, and Brandon talked him out of it. I talked to Brandon. See, me not knowing there was any heat, really, because he didn't say anything to me that night. I talked to Brandon maybe 3 weeks after he started here in Jonesboro as a DJ.
How can he have heat with you and then still come on a podcast with you
I
and be
don't-
fucking cordial?
I don't know. It's just double standard. Just bullshit.
Okay, well, at least I know the answer to that now.
Yeah.
All right,
And
back to you.
so me and Brandon talked, and he said, yeah, Randy didn't like you because of what you said. I didn't, it was your opinion, blah, blah, blah. And so me and Brandon kind of become friends, text back and forth every once in a while. But I think it was like week 6, week 3, week 4 of him being a DJ. And he was doing one of those you can eat hot dogs and
Hot dog eating contest.
Yeah, and just something where people came to the business. It was a car lot.
Oh, free hot dogs.
Yeah.
Right now in Alabama, in our Continental podcast, we're giving away 10 pounds of ribs and a Pepsi grill, charcoal grill, if you buy a car.
Yeah, something like that. And he was advertising, and I heard it on the radio. He's going to be there. And I just want to go and say hi to him. And he pulled me to the side, and he goes, man, I make as much today as I made the last month I was in wrestling. It's like I'm never going back to wrestling kind of thing. So me and him's always been cordial. I've never had a bad word, but Randy's always been held a grudge because of that. And it makes no sense to me. Before we conclude, I want you to go back to Dallas.
Okay.
And you're going to the Sportatorium. I had a couple questions about Sportatorium. Okay. Number one, was it a shithole like everybody says?
Oh, I mean,
didn't feel it there. That was, you was excited, wasn't you? You was going to wrestling.
Yeah, I didn't know. You're in a tin building. I mean, it's an old barn. If you look at an old hay barn out in the field, we have a lot of those here in Arkansas. You look at, matter of fact, look at a wider chicken house and a taller chicken house.
Right.
And that's what the Sportatorium looked like. And so I didn't think anything about it.
And you told me the story that your dad or your mom would drive you and drop you off.
And on the corner of Industrial and Cadiz, they would drop me off on a Friday night. But I'd drop me off about 5:30, 6 o'clock. And my dad would normally go work or do something at Sam's, and I would go to the matches, and then they would come pick me up right at 10 o'clock. So, because matches always went, bell time was 7, 7:30. If it was TV taping, it was like 7. If it was an off week, it was 7:30. And they would go till about 9:45 maybe. And then people would clear out. You'd always wait to try to get autographs or whatever. But I never had any money. I mean, my parents only gave me money for a Coke and French fries.
How did they know you were ready? Did they have a certain time to come get you every time?
10 o'clock. 10 o'clock was when they would pick me up, right? My mom would pull in the parking lot or my dad would pull in the parking lot. It was a dirt parking lot. And there was a guardrail that sat up front where you could kind of park, and I would be standing right there waiting for them. And that was a very rough, crazy area. But this is also 87, 88. Times are different back then. They're not going to mess with a kid.
Right.
I mean, the one time, that stupid time, I had to go to the liquor store and sit there and wait for my dad to come pick me up because there was no show that night. But no, I didn't think it was a shithole, but it was a shithole. It's hot. I know that. It's hot as hell.
I bet. And then did you go to live matches when you moved? You went to Nashville after y'all went to Nashville. You went to the fairgrounds all the time?
Every Saturday night, starting in...
God, I love that building.
Starting in December of 85.
I love
and
the
I went
sound
there until June.
And everything.
I don't remember it. I mean, I remember when you walked in the front door in 85, and even every time I went, they had that broken table up there that was the actual broken table from when Savage pile drove Morton through the table.
So you seen Christine Jarrett every Saturday night?
Yes. Every Saturday night, yes, at the window. And she knew the lady that would take me to wrestling, who was just, I think her name was Brenda. She lived a couple of apartments over. And she would take me to wrestling, and yeah, it was great. And that's where I met Jamie Dundee, and Jamie and I would go outside and play cup ball. We would you take one of those old little Coke cups that they'd give you from the concession stand, ball it up, play cup ball. We used to do that outside because I was 11 or 12 or whatever. I was probably 11, and so he was 14,
something like that. Yeah.
So,
and
he
traveled
lived in Hendersonville. So.
Yeah, he traveled with Bill all the time. What was I going to say about? Oh, we went to. We used to do trips where Philadelphia fans would come down and we'd go town by town, and then I had friends, one from York, one from Chicago, and we did the loop. 3 years, I think we did the loop in the summer. It was just something we would do.
So you'd go Memphis, Louisville, Evansville,
Nashville,
spot show, and then Tupelo, TV. Nashville.
Yeah, we never went to Tupelo.
Okay.
That was pretty much close to Evansville, Louisville. And most of the time I knew somebody working Memphis, and he would ride with us, and we'd get all kinds of inside information while we were on our way. But the first time I was in Nashville, and I can't tell you what the opening match was, but we're all sitting in the crowd, and that drop kick and that, I felt that in another building one night when I was working in Henderson, Tennessee. But it was just, from a drop kick. Whoa.
Yeah.
And I just loved that sound of the building and everything. We had smart fans, quote unquote. And we stood up during Kerry Von Erich's match and chanted, "Just say no." At him.
So if you're watching it, so that's in, what is that? I mean, that's late. Is that late 80s?
I'd say it was, yeah.
Yeah, for Kerry.
Because I was in college, I think.
Because the Renegades Rampage stuff is when you know that's when Jarrett's involved and they're cross promoting. Yeah, Kerry was a good worker too.
I liked Kerry. Kerry was my favorite Von Erich.
I was into Black Bart in World Class. He was one of Black Bart and Iceman King Parsons are my two favorites in World Class.
I like both those guys too. Black Bart was probably one of the most underrated workers. I mean, you hear people that worked him loved working him too.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was one of those guys, an undercard guy who you just like to watch.
Right.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Stay with Patreon. This is actually, I said kayfabe, but this is really our first recording in the studio, but we're putting it out second. We're going to Patreon. We're going to talk about a conversation that Rob had with someone today.
And we're going to give you information on new podcasts coming.
There you go. Same bad time, same bad channel on the best little wrestling podcast in the business. Be there. And as everyone knows, you know this, Rob.
Love my mom.